So I thought maybe this would be an interesting video for people. I've been toying with Chat GPT a lot more now and trying to learn, I guess, what it can do to help me with stuff. And I recently decided it would be interesting to see if it could write me a script to control the fan speed on my Poweredge R720 server when I'm running resource intensive tasks on my Tesla graphics cards. And I kind of had some of the parts already, although um, I did test and it was able to generate the commands on its own to send the proper commands over SSH to my R720's iDRAC. But yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about this process. And it took multiple attempts to get the code. So this is kind of the first chat I started with. And I was kind of struggling because I didn't know how to explain what I wanted. And it started doing stuff. And some of this code probably would have worked. I honestly don't know. The problem was it requires stuff that I didn't have. And then it did other stuff and I didn't understand what it was doing. So that was kind of tricky. And I tried asking it questions and stuff. And maybe if I looked back, some of this code it came up with would have worked. Part of the problem I ran into was, I don't remember where it was on here, but it needed additional software that I wasn't willing to install or couldn't figure out how to install. And then I kind of ran through some of this and showed it to a friend of mine who actually does this for a living. I think this is the one I sent to him. I didn't try it, but it was, I believe this is the one that I was kind of leaning towards using. And he suggested it'd be better to make it a service, so I tried asking it to do that. As you can see here. And the problem was it was trying to write it in Python, and some of these instructions it was giving me weren't working. I think part of the problem was Pywin32 is no longer supported for Windows. I didn't fully understand what I was reading though when I went to their page, so I could be just bad at this stuff, which is probably more likely the case. So I kind of didn't know what to do with any of this stuff. I tried installing Python on the virtual machine and doing some other stuff, and I just kind of hit a wall. Odds are this code works. I don't know. So then I got stuck in a loop. It kept telling me how to install Pywin, and I kept telling it that what it's telling me wasn't working, and then it'd tell me how to do it the same way again, and it's like, yeah, I have no clue what I'm doing, and I don't know how to troubleshoot since I didn't know what the questions to ask were. So this is kind of where I ended up giving up. That batch file might have worked. I honestly don't know. So I had to start over and try it again. Let's see. Yeah, so it right away got off into a tangent. It wanted me to install stuff. So I had to remind it that it's like I don't want anything else. Just Windows and Putty. And then it kind of got confused on my instructions. I'm not sure what I did wrong, because I believe, alright, yeah, I forgot to specify I wanted to use NVIDIA SMI. So it was kind of going off on its own tangent because it didn't know what I wanted it to do. Um, and then, yeah, it was giving me instructions. Which, if I knew how to program, I guess this would probably be, a good flow chart of sorts to do the job. So then I asked it to write me a batch file, and it did. And it even gave me notes, which was nice on what the different parts of the batch file are for. And it explained it a little. And I don't remember. Yeah, so it did partially. I had to then tell it an example of the putty command to add to the script, which it did. It left the notes there, which is kind of funny, but I'm not going to complain. And then it told me what I need to do to make this work, which was put in my IP address and password for the server and the relevant spots. After I did that, I found out that it wasn't working and it just put the fans at 100% speed. And it gave me something else, and I don't really know what I'm doing here. So, yeah. And it tells me what it changed. Let's see here. It changed the fan speed offset. Now checks to see if the fan speed was previously set before changing it back to default. Threshold hold time counter is now reset to 0. So I think that reset the count because I wanted it to wait 20 seconds and it would just count 5 seconds 4 times to get that. Yeah, I just had a lot of issues basically. So it gave me some suggestions and I tested to see if the NVIDIA SMI command it gave me was the issue. Let's see, where is it up here? It's not gonna play nice. So this command here, where it's saving it as a value, I had to check that, and that was working. And I knew my plink command was good because it's what I use to manually control my speeds. And it added some outputs to let me know what it was doing. Yeah, I would some echo commands to say if it was doing something or not. And it output the temperature. And I wasn't sure what was going on, so I specifically asked it if the script starts the fans up to 100% speed when I launch it. And it said no, it said it shouldn't do it. But there was an issue. And I didn't fully understand what I was looking at here. So I kind of got off on a wild goose chase. I thought maybe there was like an authentication issue. And it did catch the fact that it might not be catching the GPU temperature correctly. And I think that's actually where I troubleshot the command to make sure it actually worked. Of course, it wanted to blame drivers and the hardware, but I knew that wasn't the case. And it mentioned threshold and fan speed. So I told it there might be an error in the script that isn't related to the NVIDIA SMI or plink command. And it gave me some suggestions here. It wrote the scripts, so if there were any syntax errors, I wouldn't have known how to fix them or I identify them. And I wanted to make sure I was supposed to save it as a batch file, just in case that was the issue. Just gonna skim through here to remind myself what's going on. I wasn't sure if the issue is in not pulling the temp. And I thought maybe it was where it was saving the value into the variable. And it gave me something different to try here. And I mentioned I thought it was saving the temperature value wrong. So it gave me a line to add to show the detected GPU temp. I asked it to save the value a different way and then rewrite the whole script for me. And it explained what changes it's made and how it was doing them. And I think it made an error. Oh, yeah, so in this script, what it did was it named the full file name. And for some reason, Windows didn't like that. So I just had to delete the .exe to fix this code to make it work. So yeah, it was giving an error message. And yeah, it ended up fixing it itself. So this was a simpler script than the previous one, but yeah. Also, one other note, it was doing these settings wrong, kind of. I I knew that like I wanted this number to be 255, but I never specified it and I just was correcting it manually. And after I made those changes, it was giving me a new error and it suggested what it thought was wrong and showed me, I guess, basically the modifications before writing out the whole script. And we're about a third of the way through the process of this round. And this is the round that actually worked, but yeah. And of course, it was blaming the plink command again. Um, it wanted me to generate an SSH key pair. And then it removed the plink command and switched it for SSH. And told me how to properly put in the right info in the code to make it work. And it kind of got off on tangents at times. I'm sure I didn't help since I was prompting it. So I told it to forget this one and go to the previous script, and it didn't know what it did. So it just, I believe it just wrote, yeah, it just wrote its own little thing, and it's really weird because it's very forgetful. So you have to specifically remind it. So I told it which script specifically I wanted, and that's how we got to this. It corrected some syntax errors that it found. I believe it specified what they were. No, it didn't. Oh, I had to ask it. There we go. Yeah, so fix that. And then I asked it to rewrite it with the addition of showing the GPU temp. So it did. And it'll output it in Celsius. And still the same issue. Wasn't saving the NVIDIA SMI variable into the script so it could be read back. So it tried to change it again, of course. And it says it used tokens and delims options for the for loop to capture only the temperature value in Celsius and ignores the unit C. And when it was giving me the output, it just gave me C for the temperature. So it's saved into a variable again. The code's getting kind of long here. And more error messages. So yeah, I don't know what's going on there. It said what it suggested though, and beats me. More code, longer, more complicated. Don't understand what I'm looking at. Still unable to get the GPU temperature. It's doubting its ability to write that command properly, and it wants me to check it. I also tried adding a delay, thinking that maybe it wasn't getting the output fast enough to save the variable, I believe. Still the same error. Still the same thing it said before. So I've been getting a little frustrated here. More changes than I believe it explained. Yeah. Eh. Yeah, I don't know. Still not detecting. It's like, gosh darn it. Um, yeah. Same error, same error. Revision, same error. And different error this time. Combination was unexpected this time. So it didn't like something that the AI changed here. I'm not sure why. I don't really understand the code. I understand the idea behind the code, but I don't understand like the formatting, I guess is what I should say. Like a lot of this is fairly obvious. And it keeps changing. Like I understand what the NVIDIA SMI command is. Query, it's asking for the GPU temperature. Format CSV, I don't fully understand. I guess that's like a CSV spreadsheet, but I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know. No header, not sure what that means. I think that means it's going to strip off the Celsius part, and then yeah, just kind of whatever there, and some of this other stuff, echoes and output, obviously, if else commands. The timeout, I think, is how it's creating the wait period, so it's not just rapidly sending commands to change the fan speed. But yeah, I don't know. So I don't really fully understand a lot of this stuff, so that kind of makes things complicated. And like, does the spacing matter or is it just for visual purposes? You know, it's just stuff that since I'm not a programmer. Oh, finally I told it we're stuck in a loop and I'm frustrated because I don't know how to tell you what I want and I don't understand the code. So it suggested a PowerShell script. And this is where we actually started getting somewhere, like started getting something that functioned, which was exciting. Funny thing, I was being dumb and I didn't realize that these values here I was not supposed to change. I was manually putting in the login details here when I could have just put them up top. But I figured that out eventually because I was like, man, this is annoying. I don't want to have to do this every time. But this was something it did that was actually really smart. I mean, granted, someone else, it pulled that from an example someone else did, but still, like, that was kind of impressive that it gave me a spot to assign the variables. That way I didn't have to change it in multiple places down here. But yeah, I didn't understand. Also, I didn't understand that I had to put the stuff in between the quotes because I just deleted everything and put it there, and that didn't work either. Like I said, I'm not a programmer. Um, Aaron change fan speed. I might be. Yeah, I blame myself for this one because I figured it was probably my fault. Um, oh, sorry. Typos. Yep. It mentioned that there might be an issue with the plink command, and then I realized it's SSH, not plink, so it corrected itself there. And I said you were messing up again. I don't remember why. Oh, yeah. So we were PowerShell, and then when I mentioned that it was using plink, or it was using SSH when I wanted plink, it just completely wrote completely different code, which is hilarious and frustrating at the time, but hilarious nonetheless. So I was frustrated, so I just said you were messing up again and asked me to clarify. And then I said it found a viable PowerShell script. When I pointed out the error, you got distracted and went back to a batch file from what I can tell. Yeah, so it I think it went off the rails here again. No, okay. This must have been right. It just looks, no, I don't remember the Racadam Racadam path. That wasn't in the previous PowerShell script. So it kind of, yeah, it kind of messed up again. I don't know if I caught it or not. Package install package. Yeah, more errors. Oh, yeah, it got distracted and rewrote the script and screwed up. Let's see if I caught it. Wants me to add stuff. Then I forgot. I told it forgot that I want something that only works with Windows and PuTTY only. Then I wrote a batch script. Yeah, I was really starting to get mad at this point. I had to remind it I wanted PowerShell. And still wrong. So I had to tell it what code we were working with. And it fixed it so it would only use PowerShell and PuTTY. Had to specify the PuTTY path, which I believe is something new it added from the previous. Yeah. I think it actually made another error. Requires space in the path SU NVS. I was really mad here. Quit going back to batch files and stick to PowerShell. Yep. And this. Oh, it screwed up. I canceled. I stopped the response. I said still wrong. It went on a tangent, stopped it again, told it to fix this. Uh, oh yeah, yeah. That's not what working. Um, hmm. We could. Oh, okay. I had to put more quotes around putty path. Oh, jeez. And then I started realizing that if I didn't specify the code that I wanted it to fix every single time, it would keep screwing up. We're almost getting to the end here. So it updated the plink command. Got an error. I think this was a bad tangent we got stuck on. These were broken. And I told it stuck in a loop again. And batch option, which is something that my friend who helped me make my initial batch file, I believe that's what he put in there originally. So I think it pulled some stuff out that I had in previously and then kind of tried to substitution something or other. I told it somehow made it worse. Made more changes. I told it didn't change anything. We got stuck in a loop. More code. Still same error. There's an issue with the NVIDIA SMI in this round. Let's see here. I'm not sure what I changed. So through the process of this, I was saving some of the stuff that it did and kind of giving them version numbers just in case there is something I need to refer back to, because there were situations where the program kind of worked, and then there are situations where it just got completely off the rails and broke. And it looks like, if I remember right, I think I had to substitute this code versus what it suggested. I don't remember now. I didn't take notes or keep track. Reading through this is kind of helping me refresh, but yeah. So this was, I don't know if I can fit that all on one screen. This is the code that finally got me to a working point, I believe. Because I said that it was close, and then I said the NVIDIA SMI command was correct, and this is what seems to work. Telling that this probably didn't benefit anything because I don't think it's capable of learning from these interactions other than inside the interaction. Yeah, and then once I got it working, of course with its help, since I don't know what I'm doing, told it I wanted to build on the working code. So I listed the code and then I asked it to make a third threshold. The reason I did this was I realized that 70 Celsius really isn't that hot. The card can handle that all day long. And what I wanted to do was add 2 thresholds for it to increase fan speed. So I wanted it for 70 degrees Celsius. I would take it up to 60% fans, and then 80. Then we can panic and go to 100. Then yeah, added an additional if statement. And I think, yeah, it didn't get the fan speed offset numbers right, but that was something I could manage since I understood those values. So that wasn't a big deal. Once it got that, I asked it to make some more changes and listed the code that worked. I fixed the value that I wanted. Let's see. Yeah. So the fan speed offset, I told it, or I changed it to what I wanted it to be. And then I did a poor job asking this, but basically I wanted the script to wait 20 seconds to drop the fan speed from the 100% to the 60%, which I don't believe it actually was able to do. You know, put the code in there, the stable count. I need to double check and make sure it actually made it into my final code. And I asked it how to add notes. Oh yeah, the stable count disappeared. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to add that back probably. Or I might not. I think I'm just gonna leave it alone because it works and I'm afraid to break it. We'll think about it, I guess. But it would be nice if it didn't just constantly fluctuate back and forth. But I did find, at least in my current ambient temperature of 60-ish Fahrenheit, that if the fans were at 60% speed, I had a really hard time pushing the GPU over 70 and trying to hit 80. Basically, what I was doing was I was running fully at home at full blast and for mark. And then after like doing that heavy of a load for like a good 5-10 minutes, then the GPU would finally creep its way up to 80. And by the time it would get to the threshold to increase the fan speed to 100%, the temperature would dip down for a second and then, yeah, it just completely screwed everything up. But that was kind of whatever. So yeah, I asked it how to add notes, which was handy. Um, and then I asked how to make the code more configurable. Sorry, I probably should have muted my phone. Between yawning and muting the phone, I'm just being terrible in this video. So I wanted to make it more configurable. I specified the code so it wouldn't screw it up. Um, and then I said I wanted to be able to specify things like the temps, like we did, and the top space, which is what it did, and then the time interval, which it did a great job of again. I mean, it did exactly what I wanted. So that was fantastic. And yeah, that was the end of this. I might end up going back and then adding the stable count. Although, like I said, I don't know if it really matters. So that'll be kind of up in the air. But hopefully that was interesting. That was kind of my journey on how uh, how I figured out a way to make code that would allow me to control the fan speeds on my Poweredge R720 server to keep my Tesla M40 cool. There's more that needs to be done with this code. I might actually sign up for a Reddit account so I can share the code. I talked to another friend of mine who's a programmer, and he was pretty excited about me figuring this out. He said he probably could have done it too, but I did the legwork for him, so now he can just make it the way he wants it because he's buying some of these servers from me that'll be running these cards. I mentioned to him how my other programmer friend said it'd be better to make this a service, and he mentioned, yeah, that's not too big of a deal for him. He can handle that. I think he said he'll turn it into Python and then make that into an exe file, basically. The big problem with this code, or script, I guess that is, if you're running multiple Tesla cards, then your virtual machines are going to be fighting each other. So I'm not sure how I'm going to handle that personally because I believe the best way to handle that would be you have each one of the scripts save the temperature to a shared file that they have access to, like on a network drive. And then both programs will be able to read that file and see, oh, well, the other virtual machine is at 70 Celsius. So even though my virtual machine is at 20 Celsius, I need to not change the fan speed because the other virtual machine is going to fight me on this and it's just going to be counterproductive. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that quite yet. That's going to be a bit of an upward battle because it's going to take a lot more stuff to set up, and I'm going to have to figure out how to prompt Chat GPT to do it. Yeah, it probably took me about 5 hours to get this figured out because I'm not a programmer and I wasn't asking the right questions. So I would guess for me to write a script where it'll play nice with multiple Tesla GPUs in one server, at least in the R720, I would guess I'm gonna have to invest another 5 hours of fighting with this. Because I'm gonna have to ask it to be able to check two different sets of variables saved into a file. Um, yeah, it's not something I want to think about at this moment. It might be something I expand upon. Honestly, what I'll probably do is I'm probably just going to run this script on both virtual machines and see what happens if they start fighting each other. And then if the fighting becomes too bad, then what I'll do is I'll just run it on the one that's more likely to get loaded down. But yeah. And there are other things I still have to figure out because I'm going to run this as a PowerShell script because I don't know how to make it an actual like Windows service. Might be able to ask Chat GPT. I don't know. There's still a lot of refining for this, but this is like a good foundation starting point. Um, yeah, it's been an interesting learning process. And like I said, I kind of understand what this code's doing. I just don't understand the formatting or how to change things properly. So that kind of makes it tricky for me to um, do it without ChatGPT's help. So yeah, we'll see motivation wise because this isn't something that is profitable for my business and it's just a time drain that's costing me money. Um, but it is exciting. There are other scripts out there that exist. The only reason I didn't go with them was because they require you to have some understanding on how to use them and do stuff with the script that the other people wrote. So I just decided to do something simple because I didn't want the script to depend on other stuff. I don't want to have to install other programs. Yeah, I am having to do Putty, but Putty's standard, it's easy to work with. It's no big deal. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I probably went on to this a little longer than I should have. If you did watch this far, then congratulations. I don't know. Um, if you're an amateur like me and don't know how to program, this might be a helpful video to kind of understand the thought processes and stuff to accomplish your goal. Because watching this video probably will save you the amount of time I took fumbling around trying to figure this out. But either way, hopefully that was interesting, and thanks for watching.